Well, hey guys, today we are having another COVID conversation. I'm going to be speaking with Brent and Nancy today. They're part of the Pastoral Council. Nancy, tell us, how long have you been, Nancy Jones, Sam Jones is your husband, how long have you been a part of the Houston Vineyard?
Well, we've been here since 1994, so I think that's approximately 25 and a half years.
And you've been a part of the PC for several years now, the Pastoral Council, right?
Yes, about 12 years.
Yeah, so and you guys have served all over the life of the church, and so thank you for being here, Nancy. And Brent Spraggins, my friend, tell me your story, your Houston Vineyard story.
Hey Josh, well I've been at the Houston Vineyard since July of 2000, and so that means that it's been about 20 years now, and I've been on the PC for about 12 years, and the church has been really important in my life. Started as a member in a life group leader, met my wife and got married in the church, so the Houston Vineyard's always been a real special place to me.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. So we're having this conversation to sort of give the broader church a little bit of an understanding about some of the conversations we're having as a pastoral council as we discuss reopening, COVID-19, all the decisions that have been made have gone through the pastoral council. And so we wanted to take a little bit of time, give you a little bit behind the scenes and some of our thoughts and the decision making. And so really we're going to break this down in three things. We're going to look, first of all, is prayerful. The decisions that we're making are really being made prayerfully. And Nancy, we've talked about this. You were talking a little about earlier, is like, this is a very polarizing discussion right now, everywhere in the United States, in the world actually. And so we start from a base of prayerfulness and asking God what he's asking. And can you tell me a little bit about what that means to you and how you see that playing out in our role at the Pastoral Council?
Well, as a follower of Jesus Christ, I feel like that is the most important thing, is really that we seek the Lord and ask him for his wisdom, that we are not doing things on our own smartness or our own, ability, but that we seek the highest, voice, and that will be from the Lord. And so the thing is that we just want to be prayerful, but we also want to be thoughtful of the people that's in our community, how we can bring them closer to the Lord, how we can help them to really able to communicate with each other, and how we can help them grow in their walk with the Lord, and also that they don't feel like they've been isolated or they've been neglected, but that they are important in the family of God, in the kingdom of God. So that is, to me, I feel like that is the utmost important, that we need to consider. So that is one of the things that we try to be prayerful and thoughtful in our decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of the history of the Houston Vineyard really is that we've held the tension between differing views, with the kingdom being the thread that keeps us together. And so even today, in a time where there are differing views on how we should be, as a society, responding to this outbreak of COVID-19, this pandemic, we hold the tension by focusing on the kingdom realities that are overarching and that are the fundamental characteristics of our place of trust and hope and faith, is in these kingdom principles. And that allows us to hold the tension of very differing views, why we continue to love one another and respect one another. Mm-hmm. And then, Nancy, we were talking a little bit, talking about prayerful. We started 2020 with a prayer as the congregation. There was a congregational prayer we were praying. And you were saying how some of that prayer are things that we actually are needing right now just to get through this season. And so could you share a little bit of your insight, how you connected the prayer that we're doing for 2020 with some of the decisions we're making today?
Well, I guess one of the things about it is that there will be changes in how we're going to meet each other and changes in how we will be using the church facility. I was just kind of praying about it this morning, using that prayer, and just to remind myself what was some of the things that we feel, that we have asked the Lord to help us with. And one thing that I thought was interesting is that we have asked the Lord to help us to be creative in how we can, use our facility, creative, how we could meet with people, just the creativity of God is what really, moved me this morning. And I just feel like kind of go, okay, Lord, as an artist that I have, I try to learn to be creative, try to, go with the flow sometimes, but yet there are times that I just kind of go, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I think it's also a personal decision for each one of us that we ourselves is responsible to be prayerful, responsible to, to God, what we want, what we should be doing. So that's one of the things that really touched me this morning when I was praying that prayer.
It is, by the way, if you don't have that prayer, we'll have a copy of it or a link to it in the description of this video. But we were joking a little bit earlier, like next year, the prayer should be, God, help us know what to do with all this normalcy. Because here we are praying for creativity, praying for him to speak to us about our spaces. And it comes in a season where we can't use our spaces the way we need to. And in order to sort of stay connected and to be a community that is connected to the hope of Jesus and to the advancement of his kingdom, we have to be creative in ways we never would have imagined being prior to this. And so I love the connection that you've made with that prayer that we started actually in September of 2019. I think we came out with that prayer for the year of 2020. And so as we've been praying through that, God is using that to speak life into the realities of today. And then, so we start with prayerfulness. I mean, that's the base of everything. We look to the kingdom of God. That's the culture of the kingdom is our predominant culture. But we also want to be thoughtful. And so, Brent, as a pastoral council and as individuals, what that process of thoughtfulness, what does that look like?
So one of the things that I think the process of thoughtfulness looks like is that we're paying attention to what is happening around us. So we're paying attention to what our community officials are saying. We're paying attention to what folks in our church community are saying, what is happening with the Vineyard churches locally in the Houston area. And so we're paying attention. I think the other thing that's really important is that we are guided by a principle of doing what is most loving for our community as a whole, because the truth of the matter is there are folks in our community that are at different risk levels. They're at different comfort levels with engaging in person and as a community. And so we want to be mindful of those things and make decisions that enable folks to engage at the level that they feel most comfortable with and loving them where they are and how they're feeling about the situation.
And in that, I love what you said is like you personally, you're looking beyond your own decisions. You're looking at the people around you.
Yeah, so, I need to recognize that there are high-risk people in my household. And so it's important for me, as part of paying attention to what's going on around me, to recognize that the decisions I make and the actions that I take affect them. And so sometimes I have to make choices based on that situation that are the most loving thing for them, even though it may not be the choice that I would make as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm reminded quite a bit about 2 Timothy, and it's in chapter 1, and there's the verse 7 where it says God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but he did give us a power, love, and self-control. And I love the power and love. Those things sound great. Self-control is harder. But here, I think there is, oftentimes there's this thing like we're either afraid or we're not afraid. It's fear or faith. I don't think those are the things that we're focused on. I think we really are focused on what does it mean to serve a God of power, but also of love and self-control. And I think there is something uniquely Christ-like in us to be able to lay down our own rights, our own opinions for the benefit of the whole. It goes back a little bit to, Paul telling us not to be stumbling blocks. Like there's this rich heritage as followers of Jesus that we live out our freedom in a way that does not harm those in living out their freedom around us. And so in our decision making as a pastoral council, the thoughtfulness looks a little bit like that. It's like, what does kingdom look like played out in the circumstances of today? What does the expression of the kingdom look like in that? And in that, are we being hospitable? Are we being loving? Are we being respectful of those that think differently, that have a different criteria than we do for their assessment of the risks and their assessment of what people should do? And are we thinking about the whole? From the most extreme end on this side or the most extreme end on that side, are we thinking about what looks like to be kingdom people for the whole of the congregation, the community, and our city as well? And so, Brent, as we've talked about this, we've been in these conversations since March, because the first Sunday where we had to, and we didn't even say canceled service because that felt so harsh. What we said is we suspended it, the live services, so we could have online services. As we've had these discussions, how have you seen the interaction between prayerfulness and thoughtfulness? How have you seen this play out for you personally in your assessment of where we go as in the future, as the next steps we take as the Houston Vineyard concerning our live sermons, like our live Sunday services?
Well, first of all, I think that it's been really great that we've done so many intentional things to make sure that we're still engaging with folks, doing the services online, having the daily devotionals, the prayer meetings via Zoom after the service. And I think that we need to continue to think creatively on how we're going to engage folks as we move forward. I think that also means that, like many things in our lives, that it's going to happen in phases. And so the reopening of the Houston Vineyard is going to likely happen in phases. And we can't necessarily make it linear because things are changing on a daily basis. And so part of what we need to do as we're making plans is to hold those plans loosely and be flexible. And again, go back to the principle of what is the most loving thing for our community, holding the tension of what's loving for our community with our desire to engage with our community.
Yeah, and when we're again, like Nancy, what I loved you said earlier is that we ask these questions, and this is part of the prayerfulness of it, is like, how do we still reach people in this? Because with this, we have a tendency to really be hyper focused on us as individuals, like the community that we already know about. Like, these are the people that form the Vineyard, the Vineyard Church of Houston, the Houston Vineyard. We have like 100 names, but we'll call it the Houston Vineyard. But Church in the City. Well, there's tons of names. But as we do this, Nancy, and the prayerfulness of this, really we're asking the question of what does it look like to pursue those that are walking without relationship with Jesus in the midst of all of it. And so as we have these conversations, what are you seeing, Nancy, like in the prayerfulness of it? Like, what are the challenges that you see as we have this sort of like this rollout of reconnection there's also opportunities for us to be doing new things that, in essence, will help us reach people we could have never reached before.
Yes, I think, one of the things is that we have saved a lot of time, not have to drive around, and some of us, we are not working. So we having a lot more time on our hands. And, like my life group, we are not meeting as a group, but we do have Zoom every week with each other. But then as we are opening up the city, and to me it is good that my husband and I, Sam and I, we have been able to like meet up with friends from our church. They could come over, just maybe a couple, maybe a single person, and just really have that time, that we could just meet up with them. And there are neighbors that we show them kindness and also show them, help them out. Like my husband just went across the street and helped this lady trim down her tree because a big plant fell off and blocked her whole driveway. And also our next door neighbor too, the tree fell. So Sam's been having this ministry of trimming trees.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, we also had given this extra time that we could help those people around us and think about them. And we are not, totally have to engage with our work, but we have free time on our hand to think about other people and, and also commit them to the Lord in prayer and just pray that the Holy Spirit will draw them and they will see God and that He will be glorified, like the scripture said, that He will see your good work and glorify the Father.
Yeah. And so I think this is part of the conversations we're having as a pastoral council is so we're being prayerful, we're being thoughtful, but we also want to be intentional. And so the intentionality that we are exercising right now is how we begin to open up. And there's, again, like Brent had said, there's some requirements, or there's some recommendations, not requirements, there's recommendations from Governor Abbott and the health board there saying these are what we recommend, these are things we recommend for churches as you open up. We're looking at scientific data that shows us the risks of the kind of gatherings that happen in churches and how it is a higher risk for contamination than it is if you're outside. And then we're all looking and saying, man, I really wished we lived in Utah right now, where it's 65 degrees and we could do everything outside instead of in Houston where it's going to get, yeah. And so we're trying to be intentional. And so I just want to share with you guys where we're headed, and I wanted to give you a little bit about the why behind the decisions we're making, which is the prayerfulness and the thoughtfulness that leads to the why of being really kingdom focused and to be loving to the whole of the church. And now the practical aspect of it. We are partnering continually with Hymn Food Pantry, Friends of Northside, and other organizations across the globe to be caring for the people that are most affected and are most vulnerable in times like this. And we'll continue to do that. So look for opportunities. If you're really itching to volunteer, there's opportunities there to volunteer. The other thing is we're beginning to communicate more and more with local vineyards. For example, this Saturday, so we're May 20th, this Saturday, which would be the 23rd, yeah, right? I did my math right, the 23rd. We're going to be doing an outdoor worship service with Trinity Vineyard in Cyprus. And so if you're watching this, look on Facebook, look on the Webvine, there'll be a link there. We'd love for you guys to join it because they have a great outdoor space and we're going to do that together. Social distancing, bring your blanket, bring your chairs, but we're going to do things like that. And we're going to continue to look for creative ways to connect as a community, whether it is like on Mother's Day, we had the photo booth and we were so glad to see those of you that come out participate in that. We're going to be looking for things like that. As far as Sunday services go, I just want to share with you our plan. First of all, we're building a protocol. And that protocol is informed by what the recommendations from Governor Abbott's office, as well as the best practices that we know from immunologists and the disease Center of Disease Control, the CDC, and different places, local hospitals, local doctors. We're taking all that information and coming up with a protocol that allows us to operate the safest we can with the information we have at hand, being as cautious as we can to make sure we provide an environment that is as safe as possible for people. As that protocol becomes more and more clear, and it's clearer every day, we are beginning to train our staff, and then we essentially volunteers after that. And so we are going to be training the people. So it's no good for us to have a protocol that nobody knows how to do. And then we'll start to implement it. So this weekend, Sunday, you'll see service look a little different. I won't be recording at my home. We are going to record together at the church, but it's not open yet. We are going to try out some of these protocols and see how they actually work in real life. This is a test drive. As we work out the kinks in that and figure out what we can and can do, what is workable and what isn't, and what we need to work on, we'll slowly begin to invite some people in to keep trying this out. And so in the coming weeks, we'll have an expansion of the people that are there with us until we finally open up for people to be able to sign up and come to service live. Some things won't change. We are going to continue to do what we're doing online. It's not one of those things like as soon as we get people in the door, that's it. All the rest of you that stayed home, we're done. It's still going to be the same experience that you've been experiencing the last several months. You'll still get that on Sundays. It'll be there for you live on Facebook Live, on YouTube, on our website. We'll continue to do devotions. We're going to continue to have COVID conversations, and we'll continue to pursue ways to connect with you closer to where you're at in ways that are safe, in ways that are honoring and loving and kingdom focused as we navigate the future together. So in essence, this is what we're doing. We're going to start doing services more live. We're going to work out the protocol and the training for the protocol, and then we'll slowly open up into having live services again on Sunday. So be looking for information on that. And in the meantime, be praying for your family, your city, the church, and be praying for those around the world. One of the things in these COVID conversations is I talk to people in Turkey and Colombia and Argentina and Mexico. I realize that as hard as it is for us, there are people that are suffering even greater than we are. And it's important for us to remember we have brothers and sisters across the globe that are in places of dire need, and they need a kingdom intervention, and we can be a part of that. We can pray, we can give, we can partner. And so that's where we're at. We are being prayerful and thoughtful and intentional as we open back up in a way that I think honors the people in our community, that is loving and generous and kind, and that makes us great kingdom partners for our community and for our city. Did I miss anything, guys?
I think you got it.
You covered it.
As long as Nancy says I got it, then I'm good. So again, guys, hey, Nancy and Brent, thank you for taking time out on an evening when everything's going on. And I know you guys are all zoomed out. We're all zoomed out, but I really appreciate this. For the rest of you guys that are watching, look for links in the description for the prayer from 2020. And then also just be present in checking your Webvine and Facebook and Instagram and different places, our website where you can find information. And here's my prayer. I want to see you guys live and in person and safely sooner rather than later. Wow. And so let's point towards that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to shut this thing off and have a good night.
Okay, good night.
See you, Josh.
See you.
Bye.